All right, good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you all for being here for this wonderful news that we have today. We're here with our Chancellor. Chancellor Henderson was the first person that I hired after I got elected, and I'd gotten to know her somewhat before that and just felt that she had the ingredients, the wherewithal to be able to move forward public education, traditional public education in the city, and I don't think there's any question, but that's exactly what she has done, and we'll hear from her shortly. And we'll hear from Principal Gordon also, who's with the Jefferson Academy. Today, and by the way, we also have our Deputy Mayor with us, Abigail Smith, who's working on lots of things, not the least of which includes this. Today we're going to share the results of what often is called the TUDA, that is the Trial Urban District Assessment. And what those results show is that DCPS has made the most growth of any other urban school district in the country. You all will remember the NAEP scores that were shared. Those were states. There were 51 states, including us. And the District of Columbia, in that comparison, showed the greatest growth of any state. Now, drilling down further into some of these large urban school districts, we now are able to show that we've shown DCPS, DC Public Schools, has shown the greatest growth statewide and in the District of Columbia Public Schools. I think these results show further evidence that we are on the right track with traditional public education, education overall, but certainly with traditional public education, which has for so many decades been challenged in the city. The investments that we've made and the strategies that we've employed, we think are paying off and paying off very well. Again, Chancellor, I want to commend you, and I want to commend the students. I want to commend the teachers and all who work in the DC Public Schools for the work that's been done to bring us where we are today. This is not easy work, and you know, anyone who thinks that you can change a school district overnight really is naive or not being very genuine about their views. You have to have the right systems in place, which is exactly what we've been building, and within those systems, you've got to have the right people. You got to have the right principals, the right teachers, and the right supporting cast to be able to make it happen. And you've got to have the tenacity. You've got to have the willingness to stay the course, because if you keep changing approaches, you know, from month to month or year to year, you're not going to see the results that you want to see, except for some serendipitous reason, and that's not what we're looking to do. We've tried to move urgently. We've tried to move strategically. We've also tried to move in ways that recognize that with the mayoral control of education in the city, it gives us an opportunity that we didn't have heretofore to be able to make sure those other services that are so important to kids, the human services especially, the health and human services, are available. In fact, the two deputy mayors, Deputy Mayor Smith and Deputy Mayor Otero, have been working quite effectively together to bring to bear additional services in the city that facilitate those things that are outside of education technically, but impinge upon the growth and development of our children in some very material ways. The other thing, I think the investments that we've made in early childhood education are paying off as well. And we see them in the fourth grade scores this year, because I think that is the first cohort once we passed the legislation, which was back in 2009, and now have moved to move those kids through. We now have, as many of you know, we have 92% of our 4-year-olds that are in school, 70% of our 3-year-olds, and we're now making greater investments in infant and toddler services as well. We just put an additional $11 million in infant and toddler services effective October 1st, and we're going to continue to build capacity there. It allows us to raise the rates for organizations doing that, and also to be able to improve the qualifications and credentials, if you will, of those who are working in that area. Also allows us to add 200 new slots for infant and toddlers in the city. So with that having been said, the Chancellor is going to give us an overview of the results. Then we'll hear from Principal Gordon, and then we'll take any questions that you all may have. Chancellor?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Come on, you got to give a little spirit. This is an exciting time for us. As the mayor said, last month we released the NAEP scores, and this go-round we now have a breakdown of how DCPS individually did on the NAEP. And I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled, to report to you that DCPS saw the most gains in every grade level and in every subject of any other urban district that was tested in the country. You can clap for that. My favorite slide, and we put together a very quick deck, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but my favorite slide is this one, right? Where it lists all of the other urban jurisdictions. Many of these superintendents are my good friends. And where are we? Right here, right here, right here, right here. More growth than anybody else. And we are super proud. The experts say that gaining 2 to 3 points a year on the NAEP is reason to celebrate. Our gains are 4 to 8 points, 5 to 8 points, sorry. And the experts say that's enormous. In fourth grade reading, we grew by 5 points. In fourth grade math, we grew by 7 points. In eighth grade reading, we grew by 8 points, which is huge. People will tell you that cracking the eighth grade reading nut is perhaps the most difficult thing to do. And in eighth grade math, we grew 5 points. What is also helpful about these results are these are infallible results. Many critics have tried to poke holes through other data points that have shown our success, but this is a test that is externally administered, externally monitored, externally scored. We don't have a thing to do with it. And the results from this test show that the things that we're doing in DCPS are working. It shows that our students are growing. It shows that our teachers are excelling, and we're absolutely ecstatic about today's results. I believe that a number of people have asked me, why do you think this is happening? And I think that this is the result of a lot of work that has been done over the last 6 years. It's the result of our strategic and really transformational work in human capital, thinking about getting and keeping the best people in our schools. It's also as a result of the rigorous curriculum that we put in place and the professional development and support that we've provided to our educators to help them implement that curriculum. We raised the bar for students, we raised the bar for teachers, and they have risen to the occasion. Not only are our students growing more than everybody else in the country, we also saw all-time highs for TUDA. So the TUDA results this year are the highest they have ever been. Now, we still have a long way to go. We're not where we need to be, but the only way we get to where we're going is if we grow further and faster than everybody else. In every subject and grade level, we significantly shrank the number of students who are below basic. We improved our proficiency rates, and we doubled the number of our advanced kids. So it means we're not just focusing on the bottom, we're looking at all of our young people and pushing them to excel even further. We know that our students are capable of achieving at high levels, but we also know that this work is very hard and this work takes time. So I'm excited. This is the best thing that could have happened. Christmas has come early to DCPS. Thanks. We are also often asked, because we work in a dynamic environment where we also have a vibrant charter sector, who I'm also proud of, because all of us are growing together, but there are always comparisons, and I'm excited to say that we either equaled the growth of charters or outpaced in one or two cases. And as we always joke, the competition, it's a friendly competition, and we're going to continue to push to the point that there's no difference between us, and we're all moving forward at the same pace. I also want to help you all understand that this isn't my victory. This is the victory of our students, this is the victory of our teachers, and this is the victory of our educators all across the district who have literally done what lots of people don't think that they can do. And I wanna bring one to the table, to the podium, to talk to you. Let me introduce to you Natalie Gordon, who is the principal of Jefferson Academy Middle School in Southwest. And Jefferson has seen amazing gains, in part because we've invested a lot in our middle schools, and we're seeing the payoff. And so I want Natalie to come and talk about what this means on the ground for schools as they do this incredibly difficult work. Natalie.
Kaya has known me for quite a while, so she knows that it takes very little to get me to speak about my kids. This news is wonderful because it is about our children. Last night I had an opportunity to see about 100 of my families learn from their children. So our children taught them how to speak Spanish. They taught them how to create two-dimensional art figures, portraits. They taught them how to play badminton, which, as you can imagine, was hysterical. And they taught them how to analyze text and write poetry. One of the students ran up to me in the middle of the hallway. He said, Ms. Gordon, you have to come down and see my essay because I need to prove to you why the character in my novel elected to immigrate to the United States, even though there were all of these challenges that she faced in the United States. And so, of course, I ran down the hallway, and Jeremiah is telling me all about this book, and I had to leave because I started to get teary-eyed. The reality is that 2 years ago, Kaya asked me to open up Jefferson Academy. And, you know, when Kaya asks you to do something, you just say yes. So I said yes, and I opened up Jefferson Academy. And in 2 years, our children have moved. They came to us 2 years ago, and they have now moved 18 percentage points on the DCPS in English and 30 percentage points in math. Little Jeremiah is the prime example of how that happens, right? You have to get kids to talk about their work, to engage in their learning, to be excited about it. And that success that we're feeling at Jefferson is the kind of success that's taking place across all the middle schools. That's what these NAEP scores tell us. We are doing great things at Jefferson Academy, but we're also doing great things at Hart and at Sousa and Kelly Miller and Elliott Hines, and it feels really, really good. As a principal, I can tell you that we have extremely long hours, but it's because we're doing everything we can for our staff members and for our students to have these kinds of conversations and that show that they're successful. It's also because the chancellor and the mayor have given us the resources to make this happen. We have IB at Jefferson, but we also have STEM programs at other schools. We have blended learning. We have after-school opportunities. We have enrichment opportunities. We have Saturdays programs. We have everything that it takes to make sure that our children are being our children's learning is being accelerated. So the only thing I can say today is thank you, Chancellor Henderson. Thank you, Mayor Gray. You believe in us. You believe in our kids, and together we're going to make sure that it's 8 points. Next year is 12 points, and the year after that is 16 points. And soon we can say that we have the best middle schools in the country. I often tell my children we have the best middle school in D.C., but to be fair, I have to give that same shout out to all of my colleagues. I'm very proud to be a DCPS employee and DCPS principal. Thank you for all you're doing for us.
Principal, I wish you could bring a little more enthusiasm to it. And that is increasingly infectious, you know, because I know the chancellor's out in the schools in one place or another every day, and I get out as much as I can. And the enthusiasm, not only among the principals and the assistant principals and the counselors, but the teachers in the classroom is really is palpable. And that's what makes a difference in terms of our kids. So thank you for what you do at Jefferson. I guess we'll open it up for any questions that you all may have. Yes.
Yeah. So something that a lot of parents have been concerned about has been the achievement gap between poor and non-poor students. And the education department, when they released these tutor results, they had profiles for each tutor. And in the DC profile for fourth grade math, they had this to say. In 2013, students who were eligible for free and reduced price lunch, an indicator of low family income, had an average score that was 49 points lower than students who were not eligible. This percentage gap was wider than in 2003, 10 years ago, when it was 21 points. So the gap from poor to non-poor students from 2003 to 10 years later is more than double. How do you explain?
So the shift in demographics has been a significant concern of ours, and so what we did was we asked the Council for Great City Schools to analyze our data, and what they shared with us is that you can't just look at race or just look at socioeconomic status, because the interplay between the two is critical. And what they have shown is that, in fact, and we can get you in touch with them because I don't presume to know the statistical analysis, but what they say to us is when you control for race and socioeconomic status together, in fact, the gains are exactly the same. What we know looking at the information is that we know there's still an achievement gap, and this is why we're focusing on our 40 lowest performing schools. This is why we're placing tremendous resources and intervention there. But I'm also very proud to say that across every subgroup, our African American kids, our Hispanic kids, our low-income kids are growing. They are seeing gains. And so I'm not saying that it's everything that we want it to be, but if we don't start somewhere making this kind of traction, then we won't ever get to where we're going. So I think it provides us with some areas to focus on, and that's where you'll start. I mean, as we go through the budget formulation process, these will be our areas of attention. That's what you'll see.
I think it's also yet another reason why we focus so much on early childhood education. The resources that we've invested, the increasing resources that we're investing now in the very youngest children. We've invested a lot of our local dollars in the 3- and 4-year-olds, which is now giving us a chance to take the Head Start dollars and invest them in children who are even younger. To build the capacity of that third sector. We've got the charters, we've got DCPS, but we've also got a community-based organization sector out there providing early childhood education. And one of the additional benefits is that we're getting these very young parents, also, many of whom have educational deficits themselves, to listen to what the principal was talking about with the families that she was working with last night. Will we see immediate results? No, we don't expect to. But you're seeing now from the last 3 or 4 years what we've been able to do with moving those very young children forward into the 4th grade. And you're going to see more of those kinds of gains, especially with the opportunity to bring our human services closer to these children who need that kind of intervention. Mike?
The TUDA numbers, just to understand, the Council of Great City Schools analysis, was that based on DCPS or NAEP?
No, it's based on, so TUDA is the NAEP scores, just disaggregated for big cities. And so the analysis that they did is just around NAEP scores.
And that's up to this year, or that's based on previous year?
No, it's based on this year's data.
We'll love to see that. Now, so you do have the sort of granular reporting on the NAEP data that goes school by school and demographic group by demographic?
No, so the NAEP is a very different exam. What happens, it's not a school-by-school exam, it's a random sampling. And so what they do is they choose a subset of schools, they choose a subset of children that are representative of our entire population. We don't know which schools they're going to be, we don't know which kids in which classrooms. They'll walk in and they'll say, we want Lateef and Natalie and Mike and Bruce. Pull them out into a different room, administer the test, and then leave the building. And so what we don't have school-by-school level data on the NAEP. That's not how it works. We just have the district-wide data. Bruce? Sorry.
But in terms of, you do have reporting in terms of demographic.
We have subgroup information and whatnot. We can in fact get you all the raw data so that you can do your own analysis if you like. We can get that to you.
My question has to do with looking back and looking forward. Not that long ago, you were dead last, so you've got this progress here. But if I'm a young parent, just moving to the city or just becoming, a parent, and I'm thinking about my choices, what's the timetable here? When do you get where you need to be so that you get that parent to put his or her kid into the schools and not consider that child an experiment?
So here's what I will tell you, Bruce. Every single day in schools, children are getting an amazing experience in DCPS. Just because the whole district is not performing where we need it to be, there are great options for parents. I'm a parent of 2 kids in DCPS. I have a 2nd grader and a 12th grader. And believe you me, they are getting a great education. The kids that are in Natalie School are getting a great education. I challenge people to not just take us by our test scores. Our children are more than that. Our schools are more than that. Come visit. Go to Jefferson Academy and tell me you don't want to put your kid there, even if when you look at the test scores, you don't think that that's where you want your kid to be. I tell you, go to Jefferson Academy. You broadcast from there and you show them what's happening there, and I've got schools like that across the city. So I need parents to understand, and we need to do a better job of communicating that this is not your mother's DCPS. This is a very different place where every single day people are going above and beyond to deliver for our kids.
The second part of my question is, what do you need at this point? Would a longer school day help you? Are you advocating a longer school day?
Sure. You will see, we have piloted a longer school day and a longer school year in about 8 of our schools last year. 7 of those 8 schools saw double-digit gains on a DC-CAS. This year we have 11 pilots, and our hope is that in fiscal year 15 we'll be able to expand that even more. We need, listen, this is a system that has been broken for 40 years, so we need a lot, and we don't need it all at the same time. What I think my favorite quote is a quote from Abraham Lincoln that says, "Be sure to plant your feet firmly and then stay the course." What I need is, I need people to understand that we've been very careful about choosing a set of strategies that build on each other, that are reflected in research, that are delivering these results. And I need them to help us stay the course, because flowers don't bloom overnight. And we need to set the expectation. Everybody's all on fire about Poland, right? Poland crashes the PISA, right? Doing great things. You know when Poland started their reforms? In 2000. So 13 years later, they're seeing big payoffs. But the expectation is that we can turn the Titanic around in 15 minutes. I need folks to have some realistic expectations about what we're able to do. But I think even with realistic expectations, we are outpacing even our own timeline for what we think growth looks like.
Mr. Mayor, can you respond to that? You've got the bulk of the resources here. The chancellor just said, and I think every other educator has said, there's a direct correlation between a longer school day and improved test scores. Can you commit to a longer school day? Can you?
I already have, Bruce. It's one of the things I talk about a lot. I talk about a longer school day. I talk about obviously starting children at an earlier age, and I talk about a longer school year. We actually, with approving was possible grants. We had last year a number of our schools that got resources to extend their school day. And I think what we saw after a year was that out of 8, 7 of them had increased test scores. So the idea was to try to demonstrate, or to find out, let's put it that way, whether in fact a longer school day would contribute to better results for our kids. So what we've seen so far, the answer is yes, and I'm committed to doing that.
So how far away are we from that? A longer school day? It seems like
we have to negotiate with the union.
That's the problem.
Is the long story short, in order to see that happen at scale. So we're working on it.
And the schools that did have a longer school day got additional money to be able to pay folks to add another hour, hour and a half. I'll tell you the other thing too is that a school day at 3 o'clock or 3:15 is unnatural to me. Parents don't get off from work typically at 3 or 3:15, and I think it makes it more comfortable, easier for parents to be able to have a full work day, knowing that their children are involved in an organized, structured, supervised educational program during those hours.
Now, when you say you're negotiating with unions, is that generally, or are we talking specifics here?
Both. The length of the school day is governed by the teachers' union contract. And so if we're going to change the length of the school day or the length of the school year, we have to negotiate it.
And you're looking to negotiate for the next contract?
Our contract has expired, and so we're in the midst of the negotiating process now.
What are you asking for? How much longer a day? I'm looking.
Oh, I can't tell you that. We're negotiating.
Are we talking an hour? Or are we talking 2 hours? What are we talking?
Everything is on the table. Everything's on the table. Here's what I do want to say to your earliest, not midnight. Here's what I do want to say to your initial question. The mayor has been unflagging in his support. Literally, if I say, I think, swinging from the chandeliers is the best thing for kids, he's like, all right, great. Thankfully, I don't come with that many cockamamie ideas. But he has been incredibly supportive. I couldn't imagine doing this job if I didn't have this level of support, this level of resource commitment, and if we have that, I mean, I talk to superintendents all the time. We had a group who came to sit in. They were shadowing me, and one of the women left, and she said, "I've never seen the kind of support that you have from your mayor with any other superintendent." And I wanna publicly say none of this could have been possible if this man didn't support me the way he does. So I want to publicly say thank you, and I don't want you to think that he doesn't put the resources or whatever. He's been our biggest champion.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, for some residents, the only question that holds them back from giving credit to DCPS for test score increases is the question of whether demographics could be driving this. We've had a rising average income for the city every year for the last decade. Generally, where people would look to dispel that question is they would look at the free and reduced price lunch scores. But as you know, over the last couple of years, we've been participating in this trial, which we give free and reduced price lunch to all the students in certain schools, even if they don't qualify.
Yeah.
So how can you eliminate demographics?
Yep, so this is what the Council for Great City Schools did. They held constant our free and reduced meals and our race numbers over time, and were able to show that the gains were the same, even if you control for the demographic changes. And so they are the people who guaranteed to us that the demographic shifts aren't the reason why we're seeing these results. And again, Ken, go into some of my schools and see what's happening. I mean, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when we started this, what you saw on one side of town was very different than what you're seeing on the other side of town. But we've pursued equity, right? We closed schools to ensure that not only kids in Ward 3 get art and music and PE and foreign language, but kids in Ward 7 and 8, because while they are struggling readers, foreign language is going to help them get better with their own native language. And you're seeing a transformative difference. You're seeing the arts. Go to Savoy Elementary School and see what an arts-based turnaround program is doing. Like, don't just trust the numbers. Get out of the numbers. Come see the children. Come see the educators. I am telling you, if you tell me this is the same DCPS as it was, and it's not because there's a whole lot of white kids sitting at Natalie's school. She's dealing with the same group of kids that have been going to Jefferson. But what's different? The leadership is different, the culture is different, the expectations for kids are different, and the caliber of the people in that building are different. Go see it.
All right. Thank you all very much.